Welcome to The Sensitive Warrior, where feeling everything is your superpower. Hi, my name is Doreen Lang. I am your host. I'm also author of Embracing Venus, Achieve a Life Lit Up for Highly Sensitive People. I'm also a speaker, and I also I coach people that are highly sensitive to help them thrive in their life rather than find this a challenge. So I'm so glad you're here today. We have an incredible guest. But just before I introduce her, I just want to briefly talk about high sensitivity so you understand what the show is about. Being a highly sensitive person, it is a spectrum. Lights are too bright. For instance, these lights above me right now for the show are way too bright, but I can't get them to lower them because we need them for the show. So this is hard for me, but this is important to share the information. So this is why I'm here. Sounds are too bright. A room full of people, the energy can be so intense for me that the next day I need maybe a whole day just to kind of decompress. I'm a highly sensitive person. It doesn't mean you cry all the time. It just means that the world can be a very overwhelming place as it is. And there is a spectrum. Some people have said to me, Doreen, are you on the spectrum? And I laugh and say, isn't everybody? Because it's just, and I put my hands this way because I'm about here. People that have autism, they could be, it's not a form of autism. So it really is just a sensitivity trait. 15 to 20% of the population have this trait. Some people have a little bit of it. Some people have a lot of it. I happen to have a lot. So this show really is about helping people who have this understand themselves better, give themselves a break, give themselves grace that this is who they are, and just really work and manage their life more comfortably so they can thrive and enjoy. So with that said, I have the pleasure today to introduce you to Jodi Tolman. She has written a book called One from Each Column, which she'll tell you what that's all about. Welcome and congratulations on your book.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here, and I so appreciate the invitation.
I'm so grateful that you're here. So Jodi and I met years ago when we both were in the same industry running senior living communities. You were the marketing person, and I happened to be the director at one point, a couple of points. And we loved that work because we really knew we were making a difference.
Absolutely right.
But that's very exhausting work, and there's a lot of turnover. But there's a lot of people that are very passionate about this industry. So Jodi, how long were you in that industry?
I was in the senior living industry about 15 years.
That's a long
working
time.
in various senior living communities, assisted living,
very long time.
Communities.
And then you decided to retire.
I semi-retired.
Okay.
I turned 70 almost 3 years ago.
You'd never know it.
And I decided it was time for a change. And I still have my hand in sort of on a part-time basis.
Beautiful.
Which I love because I'm an uneducated, uncredentialed social worker.
Love it.
So being able to help seniors and their families at what can be a very difficult time of life is very satisfying to me. And then I decided to write a book. And so...
It's beautiful. It matches your blouse even.
So there's a story to that.
Yeah. So tell us what was the shift? I mean, I know when I wrote my book, because I thought it was a breakdown, but it was more of an awakening. And I thought, I've got to help people if I can help myself. And that was it. What was your it?
Actually, this is a very interesting story. So the name of the book, as you mentioned, is One from Each Column. And the subtitle is My 46-Year Trek from Abusive Childhood to Elusive Motherhood. So my husband and I weren't married till we were 40. And I had a child from a second marriage and discovered at 40 that I couldn't get pregnant. 27 years ago, when I was pregnant with my youngest, I ran into a friend, told her I was pregnant, and she kissed and hugged me and congratulations and how wonderful. And then I said, the really interesting thing is that once this child arrives, I will have a genetic child, an adopted child, and a child born from a donor egg. And she said, that's incredible. You should write a book. You should call it One from Each Column. So it took me 27 years, but I wrote it.
You'd never forgot that. You never forgot that because it touched exactly what you were living.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly right. So it's really a memoir that takes readers on there's a dual narrative arc, and it takes readers through the trajectory of my childhood and how I was raised, and a difficult household and how I came through that and the ramifications, both good and not so good, of that experience and how that rippled through my life. And then experiencing infertility at 40 and really just not desperate exactly, but so determined to build my family. And many of the attributes I acquired as a kid served me through my life and really helped me navigate those really challenging waters of infertility.
Wow. We wrapped that up briefly, but there's so many layers to each layer.
That's
right?
exactly right.
There's just so much. So for the viewers who are really tuned in for HSPs, highly sensitive people, when you and I were speaking about coming together for the show, and you had said, geez, the doctor had called me a hyper-emotional person.
For years, decades even, I thought that I was clinically depressed, primarily because I cried so easily and so often, and I thought, this is not normal. And was on antidepressants for many years. And then I finally saw the right mental health practitioner, and he did a whole workup, a million questions, as you can imagine. And he said, you do not suffer from depression. This is not the profile of clinical depression. And I just, in helping him learn more and more about me and in learning more about myself, he said, you're just a highly sensitive person. I sort of used the term hyper emotional.
Okay.
And I have always been, since a kid, always been. So I experience emotion on a very big scale, deep and big, and all of it, the entire spectrum of emotion. That includes joy and anger and sadness and on and on.
That's so interesting because, so can you also speak to the other part of it, right? Where you're feeling of what other people are feeling or can sense what they're go so far as thinking because of how they're feeling in the state they're in. You can really, really dive right in and without any facts,
right?
Any notes, right? It's just, and yet you're correct.
And what's fascinating, especially these days, is that empathy is under attack, and more people need to understand that empathy is our superpower. And empathy can cure ills of all kinds. Big, small, global, personal, interpersonal. Empathy is just enormously important. I feel extremely fortunate to be an empathetic person. And yes, I can feel others' emotion, and it's my privilege to do that and to respond in an appropriate and helpful, if necessary, and loving way.
And that is a superpower. That's the beautiful part of this.
It truly is.
The challenge is that's all such can almost be a heaviness, right? Because you feel it. It's like you literally can almost hold it in your hand.
Exactly right.
And if you're holding it in your body, yikes.
Yes.
Right? Yikes. And people have the chronic stomach aches, they have the headaches, they have migraines, and all these things develop. So it sounds like this has been your life.
It has. And what's really interesting is my dad was an incredibly wonderful man and very challenged as a father. Mm-hmm. And I've discovered in the course of writing this book that he must have been abused as a child. It doesn't come from nowhere. But he also was I always thought of him as a very sentimental person, but highly sensitive is what he was. Mm-hmm. He would just cry so easily. And I don't know if this is an inherited thing, but if it is, that's where it came from. You got bit by the gene? Yeah. I think it's a beautiful thing. I really do. So I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing that I love when people can talk so openly about it. So let's get a little deeper into your book, because I know you're so proud of it, as you should be. I am. Because you're helping people with this, right? That's the mission.
That's the mission. So talk about your mission.
So the mission is big, and when I really came to grips with the fact, and it wasn't until I was 60 years old, that my therapist, who I'd been seeing for quite some time, used the word abuse to describe the way I was raised. And I had never, ever, not only had I never used that word, but I had never even contemplated that as being what I experienced. And so coming to grips with that reality and being able to see it really clearly in retrospect, understand how it happened, what was happening, and come through it to resolution was an incredibly powerful transformation in my life.
Yeah.
And what I want people to know is that trauma happens in almost all lives at some point or another, of one kind or another. And I want people to know, part of my mission is to help people know, because I did it, if I can do it, anybody can do it, that it is possible, however long ago trauma may have occurred, whatever form it took, it is possible to heal from that. You possess the tools you need to heal. It's a matter of mining them, discovering them, utilizing them, empowering yourself. And then once you do that, you're able to realize dreams that have maybe been long-standing for many, many, many years. So in my case, the resilience, the determination, the perseverance, the grit, the indomitableness empowered me to face infertility, which was one of the greatest challenges that life ever handed me, and come through it triumphant.
Unbelievable. So let me ask you, what kind of support, either emotional, spiritual, or even practical, helped you kind of stay safe and grounded while writing this book, right? Because when you're writing it up, you're really showing your underbelly.
It was, first of all, that's a fascinating question and a really important question. And when I sat down to write this book, my intention was simply to write my story about navigating and triumphing over infertility. That was it. And the rest just came pouring out of me. I had it just came. And the process of writing the book, especially at this age, I mean, my dad's gone, my brothers and I are all, in our 70s. And the process of writing this book was incredibly therapeutic, revelatory, and cathartic. And I learned so much. I came to such a better understanding of what happened and how it happened, which ultimately helped me really, really heal.
It's very healing, isn't it?
Incredibly healing. And what I want people to know, one of the most important things I want people to know that's in my book, is that forgiveness is not only possible, but so healing in and of itself. So whatever I suffered at the hands of my dad, I was able to come through it 100% loving him, forgiving him with all of my being.
I love that.
And
I love that.
That's hugely empowering and important for people to know.
And I wonder if you did what I did in terms of, I thought, if I just did this 20 years ago, well, it wouldn't have come out of me then.
That's right.
The timing is exactly what had to happen now with this book, with your with your sharing, and with your kind of your braveness to say, this is what it is.
Exactly.
I'm good with it.
Exactly.
If you aren't, that's okay.
Exactly.
And that's
right.
what really matters.
And when I think back to 27 years ago when the seed was planted in my head about, what a great idea, writing a book. And the fact that it took me nearly 3 decades to write it. And I, through the process of writing it, I thought, I should have written it sooner. And then I realized I couldn't have written this sooner.
No.
I couldn't have.
No.
And with respect to helping people who are in the throes of infertility, that's one of the main missions of this whole project. I want them to know that they can accomplish a dream that they never thought they could, and build a family through all kinds of methods and options. And it's an incredible world out there these days.
It really is.
Building a family is always possible.
On the kind of a fun, lighter side, when the 3 children are together,
yes.
Are they joking? Do they joke, well, you're the one that, did anything like that go on?
That's a really revealing question, because ultimately what I want people to know is that there is zero difference in how you love and bond with a child who's genetic, who's adopted, who's a donor child, who's a surrogate. However, what I like to say is, whatever path our children take to find their way home and into our heart, it doesn't matter. There's zero difference. And so, no, the kids, they don't poke each other? No.
That's great.
I mean, they do for totally unrelated things. But it's just astounding and when Jay and I first succeeded in building our family, and we had our youngest, we have 3 kids, and we had our youngest, the social worker that we worked with at our infertility clinic asked us, would we please speak to this individual or that person on this panel? And one of the universal fears that many, many people had, and many men in particular, feel, I cannot love a kid who's not mine. I can't love an adopted kid. That's somebody else's kid. I can't love a kid from a donor sperm. That's some other guy's. That's not true. And my lived experience, and this goes all the way back to your question about the benefit in waiting so long to write this book. My kids are grown and gone. Not gone, but out of the house gone.
Right.
Gone. And so I have this really valuable, unique perspective to offer people. No, I lived this. My kids are raised and healthy and happy and close relationships, and I lived this, and I can tell you from experience that what you fear will not come true.
I love it. I love it. It's really such an incredible story and book and mission, because we all know people who have attempted so many times to have a child.
Exactly.
And then when they give up, she gets pregnant, which is what happens all the time. But then when they try again, they can't, and they adopt. But they worry about that.
Yeah.
Right? So you did all 3 columns, but even 2 columns is overwhelming.
So I'm so glad you asked me this, because this is just profoundly important. So what I say in my book is that, and what I really want people to understand, is that pregnancy is not the ultimate goal. Parenting is the ultimate goal. Pregnancy makes you a mother or a father if you carry a child to term and give birth to a child, but it doesn't make you a parent. Parenting is in the doing. And there are a gazillion pieces of parenting all at once and on an ongoing basis. And that is the process of parenting is what creates the love and the bond that a parent feels for their child and that child feels for them. And so
it's not the means, it's the end.
Difference.
Exactly. It's the result.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes no difference. And it's astonishing. It's still to this day. My daughter's 28. We adopted her when she was 6 weeks old. Jack was born from a donor egg. He's 26. And to this day, I find myself every once in a while thinking, did I have morning sickness with Chloe like I did with Charlie? Was Chloe as active in utero as Jack?
Yeah.
It just is beside the point.
Exactly. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. This is really, really wonderful. So tell us something in the book that, for instance, when people read my book, they always say this, or so many people say the same thing. They can't put the first 3 chapters down. They read 3 chapters, they're busy in their lives, but 3 keeps them, which is nice. So that's something I always hear. What are you hearing? What are people saying to you? Are they saying, there's this one part where, is there something that kind of, that you either are remembering or people have said to you, or, just something that really, little story?
What I'm so happy to hear is that, and thank goodness I'm hearing this from a lot of readers, this is a story that includes a lot of pain and a lot of negativity. And some of it I tell in graphic detail. I should say, there was no sexual abuse in my experience. This was emotional and psychological abuse, the intimidation, the threat of violence, sometimes actual violence. So there's a lot of difficult passages in this book. But I also wanted it to be as funny as it could possibly be, and as uplifting as it could possibly be. Right. And that's what I'm hearing from readers.
Wonderful.
Oh my goodness, that was harrowing. I can't believe you experienced that. And it's so funny.
And yet you have a brother? Do you have any other siblings?
Brothers.
Two brothers.
Yeah.
And have they read the book?
They have not.
Okay.
One will not.
Okay.
And the other will. And this is also part of what's so fascinating. My one brother is in total disagreement with me that we grew up in an abusive household. My other brother does agree, but his perception of relationships of my mother and so forth were so different from mine. And when I was so flummoxed and so perplexed and bewildered by that, and my therapist said to me, you all had hold of the same elephant, except one of you held the ear, one of you held the trunk, one of you held the tail. Completely different experience of the same upbringing. And that's fascinating.
See, that to me is exactly what the brother who is in denial, or does it, or just disagrees, or maybe just doesn't want to talk about it.
Yes.
Would be wonderful if he could hear that about the elephant. Because when I wrote my book, it was really interesting. 3 sisters, and one of them said, I just can't believe how you can lie and tell people lie. I mean, I was so upset by it because it was so honest and true that it made me wonder if I should even put it in. That's how accurate it was.
Of course.
And then they're saying you're crazy. So it's very interesting. You really have to, when you're writing about your memoir and you're writing about your life and things that you really want people to really get you, so they can really get you to know how much this means to you, that you want to then help people.
Yeah.
It's a very vulnerable place.
Extremely.
So, it's a funny thing between your siblings, and you want to stay close with them.
Yes.
But this happens, and it's upsetting.
And I was very careful to write my book with respect and sensitivity and love.
Of course. And yet, the truth is the truth.
Exactly. My truth.
Your truth.
And I say to readers in my book that this is my story. This is my telling of
your
my
journey.
experience.
It was your journey the whole way.
I don't speak for either of my brothers.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. And I wonder if that's why I speak to women who, I've done some talks, which has been really fun, of people who want to write.
Yeah.
But so many in the audience say, I could never do that because I just could not tell the truth. I wouldn't want to lie.
Yes.
And I couldn't leave this out, and I can't deal with the consequences. So they keep their story.
Yes.
And I respect that. I respect it very much. But I also feel badly that they can't let it out, because sometimes it's very cathartic. It's very, very healing to just purge some of that.
Absolutely.
Some of that. And then more comes out that you didn't realize.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
It's extremely
absolutely
putting intention and energy into the book, because clearly even the beautiful picture in the front with the 2 of you holding up, that's just so special.
Our daughter.
So obviously there's tons of love in here.
There is.
So trust me, I'm not out to hurt people.
I'm so glad you said that, because my daughter, my publisher, came up with several cover designs.
I'm sure.
And I showed them to my kids. What do you think? And Chloe said, no, Mom. They were beautiful, bold, graphic designs. And Chloe said, no, Mom, no. Your cover has to evoke emotion. You have to feel something emotionally when you look at, and Chloe came up with a concept of the family on the summit of a mountain. And then the publisher was able to bring it to life. And it's just
Don't you
perfect.
love it?
Yeah.
It's like, it makes it even better.
Exactly.
Chloe had something to do with it.
Exactly right. Exactly. All 3 kids had a hand in this book. And not just because it's about them, but because their support and, no, Mom, try it this way. And, oh, you need to be doing this. Think about that.
Yeah.
Mom, have you thought about... And at one
Wow. So they were all in support.
They were all
gosh.
were all a little nervous because I was kind of a wreck in writing this book. And as the project got bigger and bigger and bigger, my kids came to me and I said, "Is this an intervention?" And he said, "We just want to make sure you're okay, that you're managing your stress, and that we just want to make sure that you're
That's so
okay."
sweet. They get you. They get you.
It was incredible.
So as we're kind of wrapping up, I just want to ask you, I did go onto your website, which is beautiful. It's very clear. I love your mission. I loved how you had such diversity on your website. I loved that the in vitro, just all the different topics that you are willing to talk about with people.
Yeah.
And especially with the new administration, all the grants and all of the, I won't get into it because I know it's really not something I want to get into. But however, the gay and lesbian community has really been the lights back on them in not such a great way. But you are not hiding from that. And I love that. You're really just saying, look, it's everyone, it's family, regardless of what, your color, your...
Exactly.
So I love that with your site.
To be a parent is a universal aspiration. And nobody deserves to aspire to parenthood more than somebody else.
No.
And absolutely, the LGBTQ community is under attack. And it's just important for people to know that if a person strives to parenthood, they deserve to be a parent. And they can be a loving, productive, wonderful parent who can put love and a wonderful human being out into the world, which we need more and more of.
Regardless of the column.
Exactly, regardless of the column.
Yeah, regardless of the column.
Right.
So kind of tell us how you're helping people now.
So I will soon be keynote speaking about the trajectory of trauma, healing, and then making dreams come true. And what I say, I will open my keynote in saying that I have a radical theory about child abuse, which is that it can be a very good thing. And I will say, don't misunderstand me. I'm not advocating and teaching parents how best to abuse their children. But if that's the hand you're dealt, here's what is possible. Here's how you can use those experiences. So I'll be keynoting about all of that. And then I'm designing an online course called From Powerless to Parenthood that my husband and I will deliver as a team. And we will be bringing in various experts on infertility, on various alternative methods, treatments. We'll be bringing in an attorney, a financial person. We'll be talking about all facets of infertility and how to move through that and build your family. And so the more people we can reach, the better. And one thing I said in the book that I feel most deeply is the greatest good fortune in life is to be able to help others. And that's all I want to do.
And that's why we're here. And thanks to you, people are going to get that. They're going to get that from you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming on. This has been wonderful.
My complete pleasure. Yeah. Thank you.
This is a wonderful topic. It's really just heartwarming, but it's also tenacity.
Exactly.
Tenacity. Yeah. Really.
Exactly right.
Yeah. So how can people reach you?
They can visit my website, which is Jodi, Jodi, Tolman, Tolman, Jodi Tolman Speaks. And the QR code is in the book to the website.
Perfect.
And I can also be reached by email at jodi@joditolmanspeaks.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
And thank you all for listening and watching today. My name is Doreen Lang. You are watching The Sensitive Warrior, where feeling everything is your superpower. Until next time, we'll see you soon.